3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome to Matt Gaines Live. I'm your host, Cassandra Gaines. It's another Friday. Get your drink. It's time to stop working. It is time to learn about freight, meet some new people, and get yourself a beautiful drink. I have here an old fashioned. We're at the One Rail facility in Orlando. They have a new, beautiful headquarters. Check out our previous podcasts. You can learn more about One Rail and what services they offer in the final mile world. They are doing something very cool. Please, you will be missing out if you don't read up on this and check it out. So right now, we're going to turn our attention to this Friday to a shipper, a lovely shipper, Moid. We are very excited to have you with us. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. Cheers. Great to be here.
Cheers.
Happy Friday.
How is that old fashioned?
It is very tasty. It's a smoked old fashioned, and it's perfect, setting for this podcast.
It is.
So by introduction, Moid Alwy, I work for American Tire Distributors. I'm recently joined them about 7-8 months ago. And then prior to that, I spent about 20 years at Target, all in supply chain. So I'm kind of a supply chain nerd. That's what I've known professionally. I did dabble with software engineering out of college, but supply chain is kind of my true passion.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. But wait a second. We have to take a step back.
Okay.
So what part of software development do you like? No, fuck this, I'm out.
Well, the part where you did not interact with other humans is really what I was like, all right, I'm out. It's like, go in your cube and write this code for however long it takes. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And as you know, supply chain's not like that at all. It's like while it's technical and all that stuff, it's also very people-oriented discipline as well, which is exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
So do you use any part of that background at all?
A little bit. I actually went to school for statistics and software development, and I feel like just that analytical background is helpful in any type of problem solving and those type of things. So while I'm not coding, it's thinking is still applicable in a lot of different aspects.
Yes, it's always good to think.
Yeah.
Moid.
I think so.
I want to go back to this drink.
Yeah.
So secret I learned about you is you love whiskey.
Yes.
And do you have a secret whiskey wall in your basement?
I do. So I do.
Talking about secrets in basements.
Yeah, secrets in basements. So I got into whiskey probably about 15 years ago. Started with Scotch, just tastings. Then I got the chance to go to Scotland and learn more about kind of how they have different flavors in different parts of Scotland. Interestingly, I learned that you can start with the same 2 ingredients in the same barrel. If you age them in different parts of Scotland, the flavor profile was completely different.
What?
Based on the environment, the air, the plants in the area, which blew my mind. It's the same ingredient, same thing. It's just aging in a different place. Huh. And so then I got, more curious about that, and then expanded into bourbon, most recently Japanese whiskeys, etc. So, when I built my house about 4 or 5 years ago, and the builders were like, hey, what do you want to do with this space down in the basement? It's not big enough for a bedroom, but, some people could use it for storage or whatever. And I was like, I think I have an idea. Let's put a bookshelf door and then make it like a little speakeasy. Yeah. And then, after that, the collection just exploded because, I had to fill the space.
Yes, naturally.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me the difference with Japanese whiskey. I've never tried it. I've never even knew they had whiskey. I didn't think it was something that, but tell me, what should I expect the first time I'm trying, and what are your favorites?
So what you would expect, so my favorite is probably the Suntory Toki. It comes in a rectangle bottle. And I think what the Japanese figured out, there's some guy I'm going to forget his name, but he worked in some of the distilleries in Scotland. And, the Japanese, just like anything, like Toyota is a good example of they will perfect kind of the process as well as the taste and that type of stuff. So it's rice-based versus barley-based, etc. So it's very, very smooth. It's not as dark. And I recently made an old-fashioned with the Toki, and it is one of the smoothest old-fashions you'll ever have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what about the hangover?
I mean, it's still a whiskey, so that doesn't go away. Whiskey. That doesn't go away. But, the flavor's really good. So it's a variety that, one day you can have a Scotch, the next day you can have Japanese, and then you can throw in some bourbon in the mix, and,
That's great.
Yeah, it's
So
an
now
adventure.
you guys all know the way to his heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Cooking, his daughter, and whiskey.
There you go. There you
And
go.
Dark basements.
And supply.
Distributors. Oh, yes, supply chain. I meant to bring that up. So let's talk about supply chain because that is why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had all this great time at Target. Now
Yep.
you're at American Tire Distributors. So what is the world of Final Mile?
Yeah.
What did it look like before COVID? And
Yeah.
now what does it look like?
Well, I think Final Mile, I think personally was just an emerging area prior to COVID. I mean, everyone knew it was happening. Everyone was dabbling in it. It was super fragmented. And I think just COVID just changed people's expectations. You know, in retail, places like Target and others had to reinvent what Final Mile meant. Luckily, Target had invested in Shipt, which was their Final Mile provider. But things like Drive Up, I think there's some stats out there that grew by like 400 or 500% overnight because of the experience and the convenience that forms. And all that is just a Final Mile experience. And now it's, you know, really common for, you know, any commodity to be like, hey, like, why do I have to wait more than X amount of hours to get this? It's just like baseline table stakes to be like, this should be seamless. I shouldn't have to go to a different app. Like I shouldn't have to pay extra. Like, why can't I get this immediately? Right.
Damn those customers and their expectations.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, turns out they, you know, want more and more from us every day. But, you know, that's what makes it exciting that's a good challenge to be a part of. Right. And I think, you know, partners like OneRail and others, you know, are providing solutions and understanding that there are pain points as well as friction for both the shippers as well as the consumers in the space, right? And so how do we just make this experience better, make it seamless? And I think the growth has been immense. I mean, I was reading some stat, there was 21 billion packages shipped.
I believe it.
Last year in the
Oh
US.
my gosh.
And the growth was like 15% growth, right?
Isn't it
There's
crazy?
no other industry growing with that type of scale and size. Like,
It just means we all have too much shit. Just want you
this
guys
is
to
true.
know that.
Everyone's buying a lot of stuff
But
and
it's
very
good.
quickly.
Keep
And then they
buying,
want
you
it very
guys. We're
quickly.
Just kidding. Keep buying. Keep shopping.
Yeah.
But give me more details about like the challenges you were facing, and then how you were like, what was some of that fragmentation? How was it impacting your business? And then when you guys reached out to OneRail or whatever solutions you guys came up with, what did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in the tire industry, you know, it's something everyone can relate to, right? Everyone's kind of had a car, driven a car, and that type of stuff, right? And prior to COVID, you know, there was a lot of buffer and kind of, I'd say, just expectation of time in your experience. So you know, you took your car, they didn't have the tires. They'd be like, leave your car, it'll be ready some days from now, right? That's unfortunately no longer the expectation, right? It's like, hey, I need a tire. If you don't have it, or if you can't get it very quickly, I'll go find a different place, right? That's the other thing with the emerging consumers. Like, you know,
business.
there's not a lot of, there's less brand loyalty, but more loyalty around experiences, right? So, you know, we at ATD, you know, recognize that. And we also wanted to protect some of the I'd say the processes that we had in place that gives us the scale to be able to, for our customers to order the night before or the day off and then get that product, you know, the next day or same day. But we knew there was an emerging need to just get that immediate fulfillment as well. So we partnered with OneRail for a 90-minute delivery, which, so, you know, if you had a flat tire, you ran over a nail or whatever the case is, and for whatever reason that shop you go to or your dealer you go to does not have that tire, they can get us from us in 90 minutes. Right?
How come you didn't just want to get your own fleet and just build it out that way since you have so much volume?
Yeah, good question. So I think, you know, that type of a use case, there's not a lot of demand for that type of use case, right? So in that case, in that emergency need, you're maybe looking for one tire, you know, maybe two. It's rare that you're looking, even when you're looking for four, it's rare that that's going to happen so frequently. So OneRail was a great partner for us to do that because it's more of an on-demand delivery, right? Versus a regular replenishment type delivery. And I think in most cases, that's where, you know, retailers use the gig economy and those type of things to kind of fulfill that need. And so I think it was a great match and a great use case for us to deploy, and it's, you know, available for everyone.
Is that the only use case you're using them for now? Or is it beyond
right
that?
now, yes. I think there's a lot of, you know, we have our own fleet. We've got about 1,500 trucks and drivers. So we do own our own fleet, but they're kind of more regular replenishment type deliveries or order, 11 p.m. get it next day type stuff, right? But I think our fleet and the One Rail platform, there's some good synergy there too to kind of connect those together as well and kind of drive up even more density in our fleet than what exists today as well.
So when you were at Target, sorry, I'm naive about this, but did they have their own fleet as well?
So Target does not. So, Target's model is they would replenish to stores using a lot of regional big carriers like JB Hunt and, your kind of big name brands because they have a lot of volume to move both on the inbound side into the network as well as within the stores. And then the store final mile delivery to a consumer's house is either, through parcel, regional carriers, et cetera, if it's a, 2 to 5 day delivery. And then the same day delivery was really their own kind of, gig-based platform, which is shipped. Okay. So that was the model at Target.
So this is the first time that you've worked somewhere where you have a fleet at your disposal. Tell me about what are the challenges and what are some of the things you're like, this is great, but this freaking sucks. This is a pain in my butt.
Well, I think that's actually part of what attracted me to ATD was the footprint that we have, which is 113 DCs spread nationwide. Yeah. Any supply chain professional will be like, hey, I have 113 delivery points with fleet to my disposal. I can do a lot of different things. I can grow my core business and I can actually monetize that fleet and get into, diversify my revenue and, partner with One Rail and do other things. The challenging part is it's 113 DCs. So there's a lot of, variability in terms of, some are obviously everyone tiers their DC, you're your best ones, your average ones, and then your not so great ones. But even our bottom 10% is, 10 plus DCs, right? So it's just the scale is kind of it's spread out, which makes it a little challenging to manage. The bottom 10% at Target was like 2 buildings, right? So there's a little difference from a scale standpoint. And then, managing a fleet it can be a headache. When you have like 1,500 trucks, there's maintenance, registration, drivers, and as we all know, just the, workforce in the warehousing logistics space is it's challenging. To hire and retain kind of the right talent. But, we're competitive just from a wage standpoint. Our training, I believe, is best in class. We have our own training platform called Spark, which does really cool things. We've got telemetric in the trucks that monitors driver behavior. Like, are they coming to a full stop? And if we see any behavior that is, inconsistent with the training, it'll automatically kick off a training module to be like, hey, like these are the type of behaviors we see. So it's like,
I love that. I hope those truckload carriers are listening to that. That's really cool.
So there's, we're doing like all the right things, I believe, to kind of drive up some of the pain point, or, minimize the pain points, but just the size and scale. There are things that come up, constantly.
I love hearing more about this and more about your world because it's just an area I haven't had a chance to learn about. But while we wrap up, is there anything else that we need to know about you? Any more onion peeling the layers? Am I going to find out from somebody like Stephanie's going to text me and be like, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you was like on an American Ninja once, and he also break dances and he plays guitar. Like, all
of those things are true. I'm just kidding.
If that's the case, we're going to do about 5 more podcasts.
Yeah, if something comes up, we'll dedicate an entire podcast to that.
Excellent. Especially the ninja part.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. I'd watch that show all the time. Well, all right. Thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for having me.
Letting us learn from you.
Of course.
We'll see everybody next Freight Friday. Enjoy your weekend.